And it's crazy because, like, the Israelis, they've killed more children in this thing than like any global conflict in like recent history. And yeah, ever, exactly. And oh, you guys leaving? Okay, I understand. For sure, sounds good. Thanks so much. So yeah, the Israelis, like the shark, it swam past Israeli children, but it didn't hit the children. So even a shark can tell the difference between a child and a soldier. Anyway.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Jimmy Dore Show. Keaton in for Jimmy this week while he is on the road. Our guest today is Michael Schirtzer. Michael is an LA-based stand-up comedian and co-host of the Palestine Pod. His content blends comedy with current events regarding Jewish identity, anti-Zionism, and Palestinian liberation. His Instagram account was recently disappeared by Meta without any warning or chance to appeal over, guess what, content critical of Israel. Michael joins us today. Michael, thanks for joining us. Nice to meet you, man.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on the pod. Really appreciate you.
Of course, absolutely. I really appreciate you. I actually saw this video of yours that went viral on Instagram, and this is what ended up, I guess, getting you deplatformed. So this is your Twitter. You tweeted it out. It's still there, and I assume this is still up on your TikTok because you have a presence there as well. So let's take a look at what got you in trouble. Here is a comedy bit turned crowd work. I guess it goes that way a lot, right? I guess your Israel bits end up being hybrid scripted content plus crowd work, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've walked Israelis before, and I wish they would leave Palestine, but I've never caught it on film like this, so it was really good, and people were receiving it well.
Yes, nicely done. So let's take a look.
Oh yeah, well, we'll keep it going. I'm Jewish and I support Palestine. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, you two people. These jokes will hit you individually, one at a time. So if you didn't like one, wait, yours is gonna come around. You know what I mean? It's like a U.S. naval carrier. Thank you so much. We're posting that clip. Anyway, yeah. I'm Jewish, and I support Palestine, but like the Israelis, they don't even care that I'm Jewish. Like they're still trying to make my life like super difficult. Oh, just give me the flash. Hell yeah. Are you taking a picture or video? What are you doing? Oh, you're taking a picture? Long ass picture. The fuck? All right. Anyways, it sounds like Massad's in the back. Anyway, she's like, I just want to make sure I record this part of your set. No particular reason. I do have to report back to headquarters, but I just want to. Okay, sounds good. Anyways, so the Israelis, they're making my life difficult. They show up to my comedy shows. No. And they've actually reached out to every major comedy club in Los Angeles trying to make sure I don't get booked there. Yeah. Joke's on them, I already don't get booked there. Okay, it is a waste of their time. Yeah. You guys here? Thank you so much. I love you. She said you're awesome, and everybody else is like, I don't know, I don't agree. Everybody else is like, I work at Sony actually. So I don't think so actually. I think it's nuanced. Anyway, yeah. So did you guys hear that story about the Israeli soldier who was eaten by a shark? Okay, what a feel-good story. You know what I mean? Not for him, but for me. And it's crazy because, like, the Israelis, they've killed more children in this thing than like any global conflict in like recent history. And yeah, ever, exactly. And oh, are you guys leaving? Okay, I understand. For sure, sounds good. Thanks so much. So yeah, the Israelis, like the shark, it swam past Israeli children, but it didn't hit the children. So even a shark can tell the difference between a child and a soldier. Anyway. Man, I really wanted to finish that joke while they were still here. Are you guys leaving as well? Okay, hell yeah, for sure. Oh, you're getting pizza. Okay, for sure. That's a better answer. They're like, we don't support the genocide, we're just hungry.
Nicely done. I have so many questions. First, we'll start with the most basic. Which club was this at?
Okay,
so assumedly this is one of the cooler ones.
This is at the Setup in Culver City. So it's an outdoor show at Citizen Public Market. And I actually help out sometimes when I'm in town with like producing the show. So like I'll help set up chairs and stuff. I was literally working that night and doing a set as well. So I was that's why I said thanks so much, because like I never would thank them if I wasn't like literally the guy, like the face of the show. I checked people in, you know.
Right.
So yeah, I wish I was like more ruthless with them. But
You
in
waited tables,
typical
you brought them their burgers, and then you
no, I
no, I'm kidding.
wasn't doing that. But like in typical Iowa fashion, I actually hit them with the joke as they were running away. So
Right. Yeah, and one of the things that I thought, just as an audience member looking at that, and I feel like comedians in general have a great instinct about the unspoken and the vibe in the room.
yeah.
You really you leaned into the awkwardness in the air. I guess some of you don't agree. I guess some of you think it's nuanced. Some of you work at
Right.
Sony, right? Just kind of twisting the knife in people who already feel kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Rather than bail them out, you just kind of turn the heat up under them
Oh
even
yeah.
more. Yeah, that had to be a
Absolutely.
conscious move, right?
100% can't
Yeah.
back down from Zionists ever, intellectually, ever, like physically. You know what I mean? Like we never back down from Zionists. Dr. Steven Salaita, we had him on the podcast, the Palestine Pod, and he said, "You never give Zionists an inch intellectually, right? Because they will steal a mile with it." So yeah, I had that video pop, and I've also very outspoken about Palestinian right to resistance and right to return. And so these are things that are getting flagged by Facebook's higher up, the execs, you know. And I actually had Jordana Cutler, Israel's meta policy chief for Israel and the diaspora. This is a real title that she gave herself, or I don't know, that she was given. She popped up in my Instagram story views, and I knew I was cooked. I was like, oh my God, like they're about to take my whole account down. I texted a few friends, and then within an hour, my account was gone. And, you
Wow.
know, obviously, like Jewish comedians in America are not the number one victim of censorship by Meta, right? Like, let's make that clear. It's obviously Palestinians who are on the ground trying to report about the Holocaust they're living through. I have examples where it's like, Sada Social documented over 23,000 digital violations against Palestinian content on social media platforms over the course of a year, with Meta platforms accounting for over half of the violations. And then there's an organization called Hamla that recorded 238 cases of pro-Palestinian censorship, mostly on Facebook and Instagram, as of October 2023. Jordana Cutler is like a key part of the genocidal infrastructure that allows for the mass slaughter to continue, right? Because if everybody on Facebook had images of children melting in wheelchairs on their phones every single day, like they would not have been able to get away with this. But because the Israeli government collaborates with Meta and has a policy chief of Israel and Jews in the diaspora, who apparently her job is to hunt Jews in the diaspora who are critical of the occupation, right? They are able to get away with so much, and they've been so disgusting. Like we're seeing it. Anybody who's seen anything about it understands that these people must be stopped. And so
Y-
it's an honor. It's an honor to have made it on her radar. You know, like we're in like an informational war, right? And technically we're winning because they're having to spend more money on Hasbro. Like they spent an extra $150 million last year on their shitty PR. And so we're gaining ground intellectually.
Certainly. And here is the slide here. Meta's Israel policy chief pushed for removal of pro-Palestinian Instagram posts. They're citing the reporting by The Intercept. And obviously, as you mentioned, this is not just targeting artists and comics. You reposted this. Columbia Palestine Solidarity Coalition, under the leadership of Jordana Cutler and Columbia University, has permanently disabled our Instagram account, Meta, that is. Prior to this, no rules violations were found. We will not be silenced. We will continue the movement for Palestinian liberation. Now, you're a comic. You make your living mostly in the real world, old school like that. Couch potato nerds like me. I have to make my living on these social media platforms. And you mentioned in a TikTok video that you put out, that you don't make a living on Instagram, you don't monetize on Instagram, so throwing you off of there obviously cuts off your access to your existing following, but it doesn't literally definance you in making the stakes as existential as they might be for people who rely on these platforms for a living. I know Facebook and Instagram are the worst, because I make a living on these platforms. I have to know what I could say where. And Facebook and Instagram are by far the worst. Now, in a TikTok video that you put out detailing a lot of this, you mentioned how, people can follow you on TikTok, obviously, where you still have an active handle, and on Twitter, where you still have an active handle. Now, you made a point to say you're not on Twitter much because it's mostly fascist. And I agree. I mean, look, the definitely there's no question about it that a lot of the, far right accounts on that platform are boosted, and a lot of more left-leaning accounts are suppressed. I think that's true. On the other hand, I just have to say, as a matter of fact, a lot of these images and videos that get censored on Facebook and on Instagram don't get censored on X. What do you make of that?
100%.
Because when Elon went to Israel, I mean, he did everything but literally fillet Netanyahu on camera. It was embarrassing. It was humiliating. Yet, just calling balls and strikes, if we're being honest, they are much, 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 it's night and day more lenient about what they will allow on their platform than Facebook and Instagram. So what do you make of that?
I agree with that. When I said it's mostly fascist, I was talking about in like your Twitter replies.
Oh, yeah.
Right. If you're talking to people who are on Instagram or you're talking to people on TikTok, you get bots, but it's just not this like preponderance of fascist bots,
Right.
And so that's what I have experienced largely on Twitter, which is like a turnoff for me.
Yeah. I mean, that certainly makes it tough. You kind of have to sludge through it. But I think it is worth it in the sense that they do allow this stuff on there. I mean, so much of the content that you see there will at the very least get visibility banned on Meta and on Instagram. I mean, I know that firsthand. We link our Rumble channel to, not the Jimmy Dore show, my show. We link our Rumble channel to Facebook because I don't want to have to bother uploading things separately. So much of the stuff we post on Rumble gets either censored or visibility, suppressed on Facebook. And so it's really, really horrible. It's really horrible. And I think the wave of censorship is obviously an indication that we're winning. So as a comic, working in this environment, you said one of the other things you said in your video, and you mentioned it just a moment ago, how you're already blacklisted by a lot of venues. Can you talk about that? How does that work? Do they just not call you back? Do you reach out and say, what's up? And they tell you what's up? Or is it just you get ghosted? How does that work?
So it's partially a joke and it's partially true. Like Zionists have reached out to every major comedy club in Los Angeles. They've sent messages, calls, hundreds of calls, actually. I have received a screenshot from one of the major comedy clubs. One of the other club owners called me directly and he said to me, hey, he was like, we received a bunch of calls about you. Like, it's probably nothing, but we do have to run it past HR. He's never booked me again. And so, I did go up at the Comedy Store on Potluck recently. So it's not like I'm totally blacklisted. It's just that like, it definitely makes it more difficult to get booked if you are speaking about Palestinian liberation, because the industry has a ton of Zionists in it and they control a lot of the levers of power, right? They control a lot of the festivals. They control a lot of the who gets on magazines or whatever. Like, it's all of this like glitz and glamour that they're controlling. And you can't say anything about Palestinian liberation if you want to be on those things. And so, the list that I'm trying to be on is the FBI's most wanted. I don't give a fuck.
There you go. Well, you're probably well on your way. I have to say. I don't know if that's words of caution or words of reassurance. You interpret that how you like. But, we have a theory, my co-host and I, a working theory, that because I'm a Jewish guy, my co-host on my show is as well. And we have this theory that Israelis and Zionists are the only unfunny Jews in the world. They're the only Jews out there who aren't funny. And
don't you remember when Jews were funny? There was a time.
Yeah.
We had a time.
Yeah, exactly. Jews are supposed to be funny. But the Israelis are the only ones who aren't. Do you agree with that? And if you do, why? Or if you don't, why not?
Absolutely.
We're
And it's
brainstorming. This
because
is a theory. We're workshopping.
no, it's a
So,
fact because
yeah.
you're doing comedy from the perspective of the oppressor, and that is disgusting, right? Comedy stems from the court jester calling out the king. The emperor has no clothes. It's how you inform the public through the medium of comedy that there's truth and there's things that need to be changed, right? Richard Pryor, George Carlin. You could not possibly do a comedy set from the perspective of somebody torturing somebody else in Abu Ghraib. Like, it's just not funny. You know what I
Right.
mean? But I spoke to Mansour Adaifi, who spent 15 years wrongly in Guantanamo Bay, and he's hilarious. And it's because like he's coming from the perspective of having been oppressed. Comedy is meant to represent an underdog, right? You're not
Oh,
meant
yeah.
to be the king.
Yes. Yes. I think in tangible terms, that's absolutely true. You have to be punching up. It's not funny to punch down. But I also think psychologically, and even in the way you present to an audience, I think the key to comedy is vulnerability. You have to
Yes.
be vulnerable to be funny, and you have to
Yes.
be willing to make fun of yourself in order to be funny. And not only are Israelis and Zionists incapable of making fun of themselves, they have contempt for those who can, especially for Jews who can,
Yes.
because the whole ethos of Israel is strength, right?
Right.
Strength, expression of strength through conquest and bloodshed. And they
Fascism.
have special contempt for people, especially Jewish people, who they perceive to sort of feed the archetype of the nebbishy, wimpy, Woody Allen, Larry David type. I've heard them call us Holocaust Jews. I've heard them go as far as
Mm.
to say that. So, what is your experience as a Jewish comic going out and doing this material? Because on the one hand, it certainly affords you a certain authority and a certain license, and I'm sure you feel this way, I feel this way, a certain obligation to speak out about this.
Yeah.
But going back to what you said when we first brought you on, if you give Zionists an inch, they'll take a mile, which means they don't give you that authority. They don't show you that respect. They do the exact opposite. They're much more vicious to anti-Zionist Jews than they are to just about any other group, besides
The
the
most
Palestinians themselves, obviously.
Yes, 100%. Thank you for making that point. The most vitriol that I receive comes directly from Zionists. All of the death threats, all of the threats of violence, they have leaked my address. They have put fraudulent charges on my credit card. Like, they are always trying to send me phishing links. It
Mm.
happens every single day. And so, yeah, it's
Buy
all
10
coming.
subs, get the 11th free. He'll fall for this one.
Right.
How can he not?
Your package
couldn't?
from Sri Lanka is
Yeah,
late.
who
You know what I
among
mean?
us
It's like,
could
what are you
resist?
talking?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, they have always been the most vicious and the most anti-Semitic. I have not experienced any anti-Semitism coming from Palestinians. And I think it's like what I do is I'm a representative that's telling people that Judaism and Zionism are different, right?
Right.
It's a message that they have not heard. And the easiest way to remember it is that Jews do not kill and do not steal, and Zionists will kill anyone and steal everything. And it's a pretty easy distinction to make, but I understand that like the massive brainwashing campaign done by the Israeli government has a lot of people confused.
Hey, if
Yeah.
you watch this show, you already know the media lies for the establishment nonstop. They lied about Russiagate, Ukraine, COVID, the lockdowns, all of it. That's why I keep partnering with Ground News. Their app and website make it super easy to compare media coverage from all over the world in one place. It's actually very handy. Like on Trump saying Zelensky is prolonging the war by refusing to cede Crimea to Russia. Well, if you go to Ground News/JD, you'll get instant access to nearly 600 articles covering it worldwide. Ground News will even tell you if each reporting source has a political bias, how reliable the reporting is, and if they're independently owned or corporate controlled. They'll even show you where news sources are based. It's a super helpful way to see how UK media says Trump's walking into the Kremlin trap. Kiev points out they're under missile attack, and antiwar.com says Zelensky is actually the one holding things up. 3 different versions of the same story, and exactly why you can't just take the first headline you see as fact, especially when Trump's involved. You know the media is going to twist it into whatever it fits their agenda, so I can't recommend enough following the Ukraine war and even politics on Ground News. Check your blind spots and find the stories missing from either side of the political spectrum. You won't get this kind of transparency from mainstream media. Ground News is a lot like this show, actually. They're doing what we're doing. So just go to ground.news/JD or just scan the QR code on the screen. We're offering my viewers 40% off the same plan I use, which gets you unlimited access to all their features. This knocks the price down to just $5 a month. Subscribing not only supports an independent news platform working to make the media more transparent, it also supports this show and everything we do here. Come see us live in Los Angeles, Buffalo, Toledo, Montreal, Ottawa, Glasgow, Manchester, Belfast, Dublin, London, Liverpool, Birmingham. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.